Hi, everybody. This is Steve Maggi from SMA Law Firm. Welcome to Building the Bridge. My guest today is Yogi Patel from Lloyd Patel, LLP in New York City, an employment and business attorney. Thanks for being with us, Yogi.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So one of the things that comes up a lot overseas is the non-compete clause. Foreign nationals don't know what that is. So if you're a foreign national that may be subject to one of those clauses, what kind of things do you need to keep in mind? And really, what is it? What is a non-compete clause?
Sure. So a non-compete clause is a clause in your employment contract that typically prevents you from working for a competitor. Um, Generally speaking, in the same field industry. It specifies a geographical region within which you may not be able to work for for a competitor. It could be as broad as the entire northern United States, or within the following counties, or within 3 miles of the employer's office. So it's basically a clause that restricts your ability to work for a similar company that doing the same type of in the same type of industry business within the geographic location that you might be located in. And
this is something that comes up a lot because, as you know, people might qualify for an H-1B visa or TN or one of the visas that's based on their experience and their education, which allows them to then change or what's called port to another employer. So obviously somebody takes a job offer, they're not thinking about the next step, but why is it important to be able to negotiate that and to practice a little bit of prevention?
yeah, no, that's absolutely, you hit it right on the head there. The portability of the actual visa is the biggest concern when you think about what the non-compete clause does, right? So in essence, if you want to remain in status and you want to remain in the United States and continue building your roots here, it'd be easiest, at least in theory, to be able to find employment, an employment opportunity with a competitor or a company that is similarly sized, basically satisfying the type of employment application that was used to get you the visa in the first place, whether or not the new employer is going to be able to satisfy those requirements. And generally speaking, if you have family that you have that's moved here with you, and you have children in school perhaps, or you bought a home and you put your roots down, the idea of then being prevented from finding employment in that location, keeping fairly quickly, because these non-compete clauses could have 6-month time periods with which you have to sit out, or sometimes a year, 2 years sometimes. There's a question as to the enforceability of these types of clauses, but notwithstanding that, I think the issue that if you're a foreign national, what you'd want is the ability to port that visa so that you can stay here uninterrupted and not have to uproot your family. And what the non-compete clause does is it in essence threatens that, because you would now be forced to look at employment opportunities outside of your geographic area where your connections and your network of people might be, and therefore makes that process a lot more easier, much more difficult as far as finding a similarly situated employer that you can then port your status to.
Right. So of course, so there are a lot of foreign nationals that are thrilled to get an offer, and their first instinct is to sign on the dotted line no matter what the conditions, but they really need to speak with someone like you first, right?
Absolutely. And some of the things that we advise, and some of the clauses that there's a few ways you can mitigate these types of clauses, and what we have seen often is employers are open to the idea of having a clause that allows you to perhaps buy out your non-compete clause in the event of an event that requires your termination, so that in the event that you were able to find similarly an employment opportunity that would allow you to port within the geographic restricted area perhaps that's set forth under the non-compete clause, employers recognize that, look, in exchange for receiving a lump sum amount of money, perhaps even if it's paid out over a time period, that they can live with the idea of you joining a competitor, provided that you're able to continue remaining in that geographic region, or you're able to continue remaining in status without having to uproot your family. And therefore, it's not unusual to kind of propose those types of clauses within your contract that could help alleviate some of these issues should the need arise.
It's a very thin line because you want to project, if you're a foreign national, that you're committed to this job, but at the same time show that you're professional enough to not just cave into whatever the employer is forcing you or the conditions they're forcing upon you, right?
Absolutely. And it's like with any negotiation, right? If you don't ask, you don't get. There's obviously a way you should ask, that doesn't sort of ruffle the feathers of your future, employment relationship. But it's immensely important to actually think through what the ramifications would be if you were not able to find, a position that allows you to port that visa
Absolutely.
within that geographic area. I mean, it's significant challenges could come up.
So if you're a foreign national and you want to ask these questions to a professional like you, how does somebody get in touch with you if they're negotiating a contract, or perhaps they need you to review one that's already in place? If they do need to port to another employer, how do they get in touch with you?
You can look us up on our website. Our website is www.lloydpatel.com, and there is a hyperlink under my profile that will allow you to send me an email directly.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us, Yogi. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate it as well.